Hi folks, I hope you're well. So, I had a chat earlier at the end of the tea and coffee thing at the community centre, Pentecostal church. I popped in and Dave Ellaby was there, so I was talking to him for a little while. He has been ill with a few issues, so yeah. So in the end, yes, I had a conversation with him, and there was a young lad there who I've seen a few times there, and where he came over and spoke to me. I haven't really spoken to him before. I think I've said hello to him, but that's about it. Well, I was speaking to him, and it appeared at the end, when they were packing up, Dave Ellaby came over to this young lad and said, obviously something happened between you and Paul. Well, yeah. And the bloke said, well, he and 4 others were ganging up on me. And I didn't feel comfortable, so I went into the other room. And Dave Ellaby said, well, if you can't talk to Paul, then maybe you shouldn't come to these things then. And I had to step in and say, what do you mean he shouldn't come? Just tell him not to talk to Paul. That's fine. I don't talk to Paul anymore. The only reason why I don't talk to Paul anymore is because I'll be talking to him constantly about, the consequences of banning someone from, that sort of thing. Some sort of Christian thing. Because soul food, okay, is it a Christian thing? Oh, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have no idea. Is it the case where it's something that Paul is doing on his own? And because at one point he was doing it with the River Church, and they split, so he started doing soul food somewhere else. So the problem is, it was always a churchy thing. So talking to someone about God and then getting banned from that thing because you just talk to someone about God, and that person gets offended because they go to this churchy thing and someone talks about God. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's why I say I'll be talking to him about him, so therefore about that, so I don't talk to him anymore. There's no point, because I know he won't want to talk about it. He won't. He doesn't see that he did anything wrong at all. Somebody complained, and his reply to someone complaining was to ban that person. Okay. Yeah. He thinks that's fine. He thinks that all these places should be safe space places where people don't have to get offended by anyone. If they do get offended by someone, then ban them. Okay. That's fine. If that's the case, then that's up to him, isn't it, really? That's his issue, not mine. But, as I say, that's the only reason why I won't talk to him, is because I know I want to talk about that. So therefore, I'm not saying there's any other reason. It's only that reason. But, the lad was speaking to me about things like control and giving control to God, etc. So I was speaking to him about that. And as we were walking down the road, he said that God has said to him that church is a safe space for him. I said, well, God wouldn't have said that. No. The reason why God would never have said that is because it's impossible that any church could be a safe space for anyone. Especially when you've got a tea and coffee sort of thing going on. Because you've got people coming in, and people coming in with whatever they're coming in with. And wherever they are in their life, they're coming with that. Okay? Then if they're coming with that, they're coming with that. Yes. That means that you can't guarantee it be a safe space. God will never tell you, therefore, that any church should be a safe space, because it can't be. I said to the young lad, I said, in the Bible, was it safe for the early Christians? I said, were they persecuted? He said, well, yes. I said, were they killed? He said, yes. I said, does it sound pretty safe? He said, well, no. There you go then, really, isn't it? Yeah, that's the situation. It's not a safe space. Church can't be. Now, as I said, I've got no idea what happened. Before, I wasn't in there when he was having a conversation where Paul and other people were involved. I don't know what happened. I know that what can often happen, where you've got one person joining a conversation that's already happened, it can then seem that you've got 5 against 1. But it isn't necessarily that. I don't know. Say it's not my concern. I said to him, the young lad, I said, if you're ever in that situation, just ask God what it is you're supposed to be learning from this. Because if there is a situation where you've got 5 against 1 and there's people being out of order, what are you supposed to be learning from this situation? How is this situation supposed to be helping you? Well, because in church he was talking about the fact that he believes that God is in control of everything. And I said, well, the problem is that that's only relevant if you've actually given control to God. And I said, and most people have not. Because they haven't. That's not untrue. That is true. But, well, again, I've explained that I thought I had and I hadn't. I thought that I'd given my life to God in 94 and I hadn't. Not really. I'd gone forward in a meeting. I'd then been baptised later. But none of that meant anything. Did I understand what giving your life to God actually meant at that point in time? No way, shape or form. No. It's not until very, very recently that I've started to understand what giving your life to God actually means. And how it's so much bigger. But so there you go. Interesting conversation with that person. That's cool. Yeah, he lives on his own, but he walks a good distance to go to that church to meet people. So, yeah. It's quite likely he's a very lonely person. Quite likely. Because I said to him, do you still live with your parents? He said, no, I live on my own. Yeah. He lives in a place called New Elgin, which is a little bit out of the way. Yeah. New Elgin is more of an industrial area. Well, it was originally. It's still got houses, but I wouldn't necessarily say you're going to be making friends quickly, necessarily. I don't know the area enough. But if he's coming all the way from there to Bishop Mill, and he's walking, that's quite a walk. You know, to get there, that's quite a walk. So, yeah. I wish him well. I do. I understand being in the situation he's in because I've been there. I've been in that situation. Well, I've been on my own and, you know, very lonely for many, many years. And going to church is looking for connection and just not finding it. So I understand completely how easy it is for that to be the case. So there you go. I will leave you to it. You take care. God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Be a blessing. Be blessed. And yes, have a fantastic weekend ahead. We shall see what is happening. Oh yes, Natalie's season has left the area, and that garden is now more or less. Well, it's 80% better. I've done it over the last week. I've got to it and yeah, yeah. Knackered. Bloody hell, my body knackered. Well, actually, most of the grass, because that has been cut for years and 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 years, it was laying flat and you had to use shears. And the lawn is quite a big lawn. I met the landlord today and because her brother was there taking a video, and he said she won't be pleased that I cut some trees down. Well, the reality is the trees were causing problems, or would have done pretty soon, which would have been her problem. I explained that briefly to her today. So, yeah. She would get a chance to have a look. She said she'd be back over the weekend to have a look. So, and she wants to have a chat with me then. So, therefore, Christy, we can do that, yes. So, yeah. As I said, I think I did a video recently about that and just saying when that place is available and whether or not it was suitable for me to move in there for a time. Don't know. Time will tell. So there you go. You take care. God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Be a blessing, be blessed, and have a fantastic week ahead and a weekend. I will speak to you soon. Bye bye.